till I die, Spurs Diehards. Tottenham till I die. Tottenham till I die. Tottenham till I die. Spurs Diehards. Tottenham till I die.
Good evening. Welcome to the Sunday edition of the double award-winning Spurs Diehards TTID Sunday show. And I'm never going to get tired of saying that, ever. Tonight, what can I say? Considering there hasn't been any football played, it's been an absolutely monumental week. And we are going to review that with Adrian and Tom, who's going to join us, but a debutant on this show, Callum Stubbs, a member of the Park Lane podcast and someone I know through Harry Scarfy's channel. Good evening, Callum. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good, mate. I'm really good, thanks. And it's actually good to be chatting Spurs. It's been a quiet week for me podcasting, so it's good to be on with you guys.
Yeah, it's almost like where to start. I'll tell you where I am going to start, though. I'm going to start with the comments because we've got a good few people, and I've been bigging up this show tonight, so there's bound to be a few. But I'll say hi to some of the people in the chat. Good evening, Graham, one of our regulars. Great to see you. Where am I going? Nita.
Big up, Nita.
Yeah, I saw that from the Information Commissioner's Office, self-employed. Okay, I don't know, Nita, if that's something you're thinking about with the data protection stuff in terms of the Morgan Gibbs White situation, but I can see the connection there. So let me just see, because there's messages from us. Actually, it's 4 bottles of red wine, and all has to be paid up front. That's the difficult part of it.
Yeah,
it all has to be paid up front.
There better be big bottles as well.
And there's Paul. I will go back to the chat, but I think I want to start off. As I say, it has been an absolutely monumental week. First of all, with the signing of Mohamed Kudus, and that's almost gone under the radar with a Morgan Gibbs White and a transfer saga. I think, Callum, you and I both have a very similar view on this, as do you, Adrian. But I made a video earlier for the YouTube channel, and I'm going to show that, give Tom a chance to join us as well, and that will give us, I think, some food for thought and material to discuss. So let me play this now. And the transfer of Morgan Gibbs White to Tottenham Hotspur, so many other transfers, caught us all by surprise. And then was a bigger surprise was when the Forest owner Marinakis turned around and said, "I'm not sanctioning this. I need to take legal advice first and foremost." And the medical that was booked for Friday was abruptly cancelled, and there's been a state of abeyance ever since. But let's put this into some sort of context. My own background is in employment law, albeit I have no experience of advising in professional football and professional footballers' contracts, but I'm going to try and cut through a little bit about what might be in those contracts or what perhaps might not be. There's a couple of things, though, I think we need to point out that seems to have gone under the radar. The first thing is that Forest would undoubtedly have not intended to sell Morgan Gibbs White under any circumstances this summer. Otherwise, I don't think for a minute they'd have let Elanga go to Newcastle United. And I think that's probably the thing that's frustrated them more than anything, that this has come totally under their radar, that they decided, for whatever reasons, financial or otherwise, they were letting one big player go. But then to find that Morgan Gibbs White is leaving as well would have just absolutely pulled the rug from a club that's had its biggest season in probably 40 years, qualified for Europe, etc. So I can absolutely understand Forest's frustration. The other thing is that their chairman is Nicholas Randall KC, who just happens to be a specialist in employment law and sports law. So that I actually see as a big advantage, because I think someone like that would hopefully be able to talk some common sense into the situation. Now, let's have a look. We've also seen, some of you would have seen Sky Andrews on TalkSport talking quite extensively about this, but as some people said, it's something of a word salad. I mean, he says, well, Spurs have bid £60 million, but they won't get the player for that because, well, the release clause must mean that they have to pay it up front, which it may or may not say. Also, that Spurs would be getting a £100 million player for £60 million, so obviously they won't get him for £60 million. None of that makes any sense to me whatsoever. The key is what's in the release clause. Granted, there may be elements of confidentiality in contracts of employment. People talk about NDAs. No doubt all players have terms in their contracts of employment that say you can't talk about things that go on in the dressing room, disputes, arguments with managers, going to the papers and what have you. That would be pretty well a standard clause in any contract of employment for anybody in the public eye. And in fact, if you're looking at this and you work in an ordinary job in an ordinary company, even at a half senior level, you'll have something in your contract, I am sure, that says that you can't talk to the press or reveal during employment or even after employment things that you know or ought reasonably to know are confidential. So these are all very much standard terms in contracts of employment. The issue to me is what's in the release clause. We know from Crystal Palace that Eze's release clause was not only around £67 million, but that it had to be paid up front, and that Steve Parish has not really been playing ball with anybody on this in terms of that's the release clause, take it or leave it, and the selling club of course are entitled to do that. What we don't know is what's in Morgan Gibbs White's release clause. If it says £60 million up front, then absolutely Forest can demand the £60 million up front. But if it's silent on that, I can't for the life of me work out why Forest would be entitled to say we're getting that £60 million up front or there's no deal, when you have a situation where the vast majority of transfers are done over a period of 3, 4 or 5 years. And if you compare that, say, with a recent deal
deal that we've done with Mohamed Kudus from West Ham. His release clause was apparently £85 million, way in excess of the player's value. Spurs would appear to have been able to negotiate for all kinds of reasons. One, that Kudus doesn't really fit in with West Ham, but secondly, they needed to raise some money. That deal is apparently £55 million in 3 instalments. So my gut on this has always been the same. If there's been any breach in any event, nothing can preclude the player from signing a contract with Tottenham. It will only be a matter then of if there's been any illegal approach or whatever, then football has mechanisms to deal with that and potentially fine clubs or whatever. But Gibbs White will become a Spurs player. My gut is that this will all be sorted out amicably. Maybe we'll give them a player on loan or something as a sweetener, and he will be a Spurs player before close of play on Wednesday night. We will be discussing this on Spurs Diehards tonight at 2200 hours UK time.
I think I can leave it there. Before I bring you in, Callum, on this, because I think you've got similar information. So let me just, if there's some I've checked in the chat that I haven't mentioned. May have mentioned you, Paul. Good evening. Nige, Pure Coys, big up chat, and everybody. Graham, I've mentioned you. King Hoddle, good evening. Never's red card, so I presume. Right. Oh, well, sorry, we're doing a show, not seeing the football. So someone can tell us the latest on the football. It was 3-0 when I had to turn it off to put the show on. Absolutely. Mine's a bottle of Malbec, Nita, if you're buying, darling. Jack Sheldon, good evening. And Milton de Braga. Smash the likes, everybody. There are 105 of you already on various media. Adrian, you want to pick this up?
What on the there's
no, just the likes. I'm going to bring Callum in, but on the likes, and because you've got a big following on X.com.
Yeah, I mean we also, I mean, for those of you who don't know, our shows go out Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays at 10 o'clock UK time, 2200 hours. Ian hosts Sunday, I host Tuesday, Druzilla hosts on Fridays shows, So that's the format. I mean, we have got a Facebook group with 14,500 members. We've also got a Facebook page which has now just got 300 members on it. But we've had an XCOM for about a year that's got 3,200 on it at the moment. But XCOM have just started communities, if people don't know. And so I started a communities channel yesterday. It's got about 14 members in it. But so you can actually, if you are interested or you use XCOM and you want to follow us on there as well, because I post loads of stuff in so many groups, it's unreal. So if you go to XCOM, you can click the link below which says communities. Go straight there. The advantage of that is you see everything we post, because otherwise what normally happens, if you post on XCOM, it gets lost in a myriad of other posts. All
right. So, how do people watching not on YouTube hit the likes and subscribe button, Adrian? Yeah. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we can't see it, we're live, but there's the YouTube red subscribe button. If you like the content, please, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Well, there are memberships. We have our memberships here. We're only a year old, but we wait until till we sort of grew a little bit, So, and thank you for your support, and big up to 114 of you watching us now, and those in the chat, regular loyal support. Big up to you, and thank you for staying with us. Go on in, Callum. Yeah, let's bring it back absolutely on focus to Morgan Gibbs White. I know from stuff you've posted today, you're very much with me on that he'll be a Spurs player. What's your latest information on this?
So it was reported to me back on Thursday, about 3 hours before it broke from Ornstein, that Spurs had been speaking to Gibbs White's agent. He shares the same agency around Kudus as well. So he was presented as an option to Spurs. Spurs obviously approached the player, and within a couple of hours, it went to here we go from Fabrizio Romano. The release calls had been triggered. We all know how Friday went, where it became the best 24 hours to the most turbulent 48 hours that we've sort of had living there. There was information released on Saturday to say that he was still in London. He was still doing media duties. I mean, he was at Hotspur Way at some point across Friday and Saturday in discussions with the club. And there was a hope that a breakthrough would happen. The problem is Marinakis has thrown his toys out the pram, and this legal claim has come about where it's not only gone legally against the agent, it's gone legally against Spurs, because there was apparently an NDA in place which has breached any policy to say that Spurs, if they was interested in the player, they should have gone to Forest first. They shouldn't have gone to the agent. They shouldn't have gone to the player. They shouldn't have gone to the player's wife. They shouldn't have gone to the player's barber, whoever it is. And
Callum, let me just stop you and ask a question. Did you not say, though, that initially the player was offered by his agent to Tottenham?
The player was offered as an option, as other players that were in. Obviously, all agencies have about 1,000 players on their books. And if you ask them, right, I've got this many midfielders on my books, what ones are good options? And the agent offered Gibbs White to Spurs. And the problem is that person opened it up to Spurs doing it. And the agent broke the NDA by saying that he had a 60 million release clause in his contract to put together for Spurs to approach. And the reason Forest have jumped up and down and kicked their toys out the pram is because Spurs' offer met the release clause. It wasn't a penny over. It wasn't a penny below. It was 60 million dead on. The only people who should know about that release clause are the agent, the player, and Forest. No other club. Okay. The only way to find out about that legally and we all know it happens where people tap up. Real Madrid did it with Trent, all of that stuff. But legally binding under a football law, you should only approach the club. So Spurs should have approached Forest and asked what were the conditions to get a deal done. And according to Forest, that's not been the process that was followed.
But if there's been any breach of contract, what you're saying is it's Morgan Gibbs White's agent.
Morgan Gibbs White's agency that are susceptible to it. The grey area of it, though, is because Spurs have acted on that information. They have willingly used that information on it. That's where Forest are challenging it, saying that they have used that information gained unlawfully.
I get that, but Tottenham aren't party to that contract. So, I mean, I'm putting my legal hat on now. I don't see how Tottenham can be held responsible for the breach of contract or the breach of confidentiality by Morgan Gibbs White's agent and Nottingham Forest. That's a matter for them. Welcome to the stage, Tom Clark. If you don't know Callum, who's on the left of the screen as you're looking at it. Tom, you might need a bit more light though.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I'll actually...
You look scary good.
Thank you. I've just got dash for 10 minutes. Just got to give the wife a hand with getting the baby stuff up, and then I'll be back on. So give me 10 minutes, and I'll be back.
No, great, Tom. That's brilliant. We'll carry on with this and certainly get your thoughts on the Gibbs White transfer. Callum, before Tom's gone, but one last question then, because I need to bring Adrian in as well as Tom on this before we move on to other areas of interest. You too, your information is that he will be a Spurs player soon, that Spurs are just keeping it under the radar and waiting for it all to pan out. Is that fair?
Yeah, based on the hope within Spurs and the sort of people around the deal in the outer stages, their belief is that Morgan Gibbs-White will be a Spurs player, ideally by the end of this week. There has been reports, unconfirmed, that he has done some media duties. He has already done bits. He's no longer in London at the moment. He has returned up north. It's not anything to do with Forest. It's because his wife's pregnant. You can't expect a guy to stay away from his pregnant wife either down south all the way through. It's not fair. These are human beings. They're not just robots as players. So people saying that Marinakis has done stuff it's true that he has blocked it, but Gibbs-White has returned home because he's just taking care of his family at the end of the day.
Has the medical been done?
Medical hasn't been done as far as I'm aware.
Okay, that's fine. Adrian, let's actually talk about the practicalities. And I do wish we had an actual transfer to celebrate. But would you be excited at the thought of Morgan Gibbs-White in our midfield?
Yeah, I just want to add a caveat to what you guys have been saying before. I mean, Marinakis, he's caught a crab here, really, because this Morgan Gibbs-White contract was signed before he took over Nottingham Forest Football Club. So unless he arrived and decided to do diligence on every contract of every player at the club, I think this has just surprised him. It's come out the blue, and I don't think he even knew about. And he might be saying it now about a non-disclosure agreement, if there is one, right? Or he might be saying about the money in the release clause, the 60 mil. But I think this has just come as a shock to him. I don't think he see it. As for the player, he is a frank player, isn't he? He is full of energy. He is box to box. I see him as an 8. Some people say, no, he's not a 10. I see him as an 8. I don't like numbers anyway. I'm old school. I prefer midfielder, attacking midfielder, DM or whatever. I don't like these numbers because they're not specific. And when other fans start talking about numbers, they're talking about someone who's perfect in all things for that position, which doesn't happen. Yeah. So, cracking player. I've liked him. Did I think we'd ever go and get him? No, because I never knew there was a release clause, and it's a steal at 60 mil. I think he's worth he's worth that. How much he is actually worth? Maybe 70, 75. I don't know. Yeah, but that's immaterial now. There were rumours that people were trying to
let me go back into the chat, Adrian. Sorry.
Okay.
Just I'll tell you because there's something.
Well, while you're looking,
I mean, some of it
Callum,
very much.
Callum, let me ask Callum a question while you're looking for the chat. Do you think this could get further complicated? Do you think, I think the damage is done. He's not playing for Forest again. Once this sort of thing happens, it's over, right? So, but there's rumours and people are trying to stir the pot with perhaps if it's 60 mil now, other clubs might come in for him. What's your take?
There's obviously been interest elsewhere. We know that City approached them, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of other clubs sniffing about because Spurs have their intent. Morgan Gibbs-White has said that he's very keen to come to Spurs as well. And it was quite interesting seeing Yates come out today as well from Forest saying that if Gibbs-White does go, then they'll just have to move on as well. So Forest players are aware of this. And I don't think there's any way back for him into there. It's just, I don't see what other clubs would come in for him because Forest, City did it at the start of the window. They've now got Tunreinders who's come in. They've got other people. You've got Newcastle who probably won't cough up money. I don't think Liverpool would. I don't know. They've got Jones, they've got Gravenberch, they've got Soberslide, they've got McAllister, they've got Endo. They've got people who can play all the way through from that attacking mid all the way down to defensive mid. So I don't think there's a lot of other interest. You'd maybe say United, but they can't even organise a piss up in a brewery at the moment with Brian and Burmo. So, I mean, they're not going to do it. So I don't think people will come in. It's just Forest this week have gone from the sort of golden boy, lovable club of the Premier League to being the biggest bastards in the world. They're hated by so many fan bases at the moment. They're hated by Palace. They're hated by Spurs. All the clubs that would probably do business with them are not in a good place, and they're just doing it in such a bad way that I think that even agents are going to look at them and think, do we really want to do business with you lot? That's the problem, because Marinakis has showed his true colours.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Tom's brilliant. Tom, you timed that wonderfully well, because it was absolutely the right time to ask you what you think of. We're working on the basis that Morgan Gibbs-White will be a Spurs player before the end of the coming week. So, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I hope we do get the deal through, because he is a fantastic player that I wanted last season, actually, to be honest with you. And a player that I've always said I'd like us to get, but I never thought it would be particularly realistic, especially when there was all the noise around Man City. We're trying to tie him up as their sort of like De Bruyne replacement as well. So as long as the deal gets done, be fantastic. Obviously, I'm not really aware of what you guys have been speaking of, but like my understanding is it's kind of like the agents and players' fault, as opposed to Spurs. Even though Spurs have acted upon the information, they're not to know that the information they were given was necessarily non-disclosable information. If the players and agents said, "Hey, put this in, that's our release clause," and they go and do that without, so what effect that then has on Gibbs-White and him coming, I don't really know. But I think it'll all get done. I think that it's just wait for the dust to settle and maybe a backhanded payment here or there to get it over the line. I don't really know. But yeah, fantastic player. And if we get him, that is huge. To be honest with you, I think he's more suited to what we need than Eze.
We're coming on to other players, and I think one thing I think is really exciting. I'm going to go back through the chat. Got a question here, so I don't know, Shoshi, maybe you're new to English football or whatever. What a club friendly is? Yeah, friendlies are, particularly when we talk at the moment about pre-season friendlies, are games that are played. They're basically warm-up games for the season. The friendlies, as in, it's just a generic term. They're non-competitive games. They're warm-up games before the season. There's no league points, cup places, or anything for them. It's just a term we use. I might have to organise a player swap. I think I said my thought was maybe as a sweetener we'll give them a player on. A player on loan, Joe Blogs, but excuse me. Personally, I think from the discussions, information that I've gotten that Callum has, is we're not party to the breach of contract. We're not party to the breach of any confidentiality clause. If someone's disclosed that to us and we're the beneficiaries of it, so be it. Forest's remedy is not against Tottenham, it's against his agent, and that's a different story. David lives in the East Midlands. Hi, David. Forest owner pulled this PR stunt because he got roasted by Forest fans on social media, so he had to do something. Yeah, I mean, I can believe that. I mean, I'll be careful what I say. I don't want the libel lawyers coming for me, but he doesn't always. I think he sometimes opens his mouth before he engages his brain, and that's never good.
Ian.
Oh, so there you go. Daniel. Thanks, Daniel, for answering that. Yeah, it's,
Ian. Just on the Forest owner. Surely he's got to be a little bit careful, because didn't he on March the 1st sign his thing over to a blind trust to say that he's not actually got influence over the thing to try and pass the multi ownership rulings, because obviously he owns Olympiacos and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So surely him getting all involved and saying, I don't want us to do this, I don't want to do that, that's just proving that this blind trust that he's put it into is not actually the case, and he actually has influence over the club still. Like, if you're going to get into the real legalities over everything that's going on, then he's got to be a little bit careful with that, surely.
Could I just come in on that, Ian, just quickly?
Yeah, please.
Please do. This is the important, not
well,
knowing anything.
Pick up on as well. Yeah, go on, please.
I think that I don't know whether it's Marinakis himself or whether it's the sort of governing board of Forest who have brought this claim out, because, like you say, he signed his stuff over into this trust, this bond or whatever it is for this to avoid the multi-club ownership. I reckon the PR stuff from the press has probably put two and two together and put Marinakis in it, because obviously he's the face of Forest. He has been for so long. I know the standpoint has come from Forest and the challenge has come from Forest, but it's not whether it's from him, whether it's from the director of football, or whatever. It's just Forest as a club. So we have to kind of say, and we've all seen the piss taking of Marinakis, the big fat guy in the Forest shirt and all that, with the little Morgan Gibbs White Spurs teddy, all of that stuff. So it's
nothing wrong with fat guy.
well, it's all right. That's why I'm sitting down here in like this chair. It kind of makes me look a little bit more slender as we go. But we've all seen them sort of pictures. So I would say that the challenge has come more from the Forest side itself, the Forest legal team, the Forest PR team. That's where it is, and we have to remember Spurs have over 900 employees. Forest probably have over 600 employees. It's not just Levy versus Marinakis. Yeah. As well, so I think that's where we've got to be very careful where we do go, and it'll be interesting that if any court documents are put in for proceedings, whether it does have Marinakis' signature on it, or whether it has head of legal services at Nottingham Forest, whether it has head of legal services Tottenham Hotspur on it as well. That's my sort of grasp on it as well.
Yeah. Well, I said their chairman is a top King's Counsel in employment and sports law, so they ought to know what they're doing. King Hoddle, there is no possibility that transfer will be voided. Just can't happen. It's absolutely, under English law, never mind about football law, compelling a player to stay at Nottingham Forest and not join a club, particularly when the option, the buyout clause has been made. That's just not going to happen.
Ian, question for you, because you're the employment guy.
Yeah.
So if Forest gets drop in, try and drag it out, can Levy sue them for breach of contract?
No, and to be honest with you, I get this kind of question from clients. A time like this, what you're looking to do is put light, not heat, on a situation. So you're looking to be, to be placatory and to say, right, come on, how are we gonna sort this? And I would imagine probably there's contacts with Tottenham's lawyers, and Tottenham have got good lawyers with their chairman, and say, right, how do we get around this impasse? The player's coming to us, we want the player wants to come, we're meeting the buyout clause, it can't be stopped. Let's get this done in the most amicable way possible. Let's see what we can do as well. You can come and do the skywalk. We'll build a bit of Grand Prix car big enough for Marinakis so he can come and have a go around that as well. But,
are they going to build one big enough for you as well, Ian, to go along with it, mate?
I'm not riding tandem with him, that's for sure.
I don't see Ian abseiling down the south.
We've been half an hour on this subject, but yeah.
Oh, God help.
That's right. Have I got too much more here? God, there is. There's a lot of good stuff in the chat. 3-0 to Chelsea final score.
We won't talk about it.
I promise I'm coming on to that. And my friend Peter Kagayas, 7:31 in Melbourne. The show does not start. Good God, that's ages ago. Does not start. The world does not start until I get a time check from Peter. Levy said we're going to come on to this. I said we're only going to run an hour and a half, but it's going to be fun. So let's try and keep this to an hour and a half if we can, because I think that question about Levy and the what he's doing in the the club, rumours, and we are now talking about rumours. And one of the things I wanted to deal with as much tonight as fact rather than unsubstantiated rumours. But since I suppose at the end of the day, once we bought Kudos, and then suddenly the following day we're paying £60 million for Morgan Gibbs White, and that's not the end of the dealings, as I understand it. We're going to talk about. So suddenly people are starting to say, where's the money coming from? Callum, I'll start with you again. Do you have any knowledge of what is happening, or are we all waiting with knowing that there's money from somewhere, waiting to find out who the fairy godmother is?
Well, we've definitely got a fairy godmother somewhere, and we don't know what side of the earth it's on at the moment. But the sort of standpoint is that a short-term investment has been placed in by the ENIC Trust, who are run by Joe Lewis's son and daughter, because obviously he's not allowed to conduct any business within the UK, I don't think, and most other countries because of financial conduct, corruption. There is talk of this sort of impending naming rights deal as well, and I've heard two different lines. It's either American investors that have been acquired by Rothschild Bank, or there's Saudi investors, and Himothy have picked up this link from somewhere, and he was the first to report it, so very good reporting from him. There's definitely stuff going on, and I think the most concise way to put it is the short-term investment is from ENIC, but it's got like an underwritten approach from sort of the naming rights deal that's going to come in. So I believe in the next, say, month or two, we'll probably be looking at a naming rights deal for the stadium. And if it is, then this is a brilliant bit of movement from Daniel Levy. And it's a deal that's been reported that the money will not just be a fixed term contract, it will be going up in value per year that it's in place, if it is to be confirmed. So each year we'll get a fixed sum the first year, that will then increase to another fixed sum after that, and it will keep going up in value across the term. So it could be a 5-year, it could be a 10-year, it could be a 20-year deal, depending on how well Levy manoeuvres this. And this is what we want Levy for, doing the business like this, not on the pitch.
And in fact, you had some insight earlier, and I will come back to you on this again, about the way the football side of the business has subtly changed with the people coming in, Cullen going out. But we'll come back to that. Tom, your thoughts on, we've all been hoping for so long that one day, however it happened, that the coffers would be opened, the money would come, and we'd be spending the kind of money a club of our stature should be spending.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've always felt in the last few years, especially, that we've been a bit of a sleeping giant of a football team that's just been ready to be able to suddenly dump a load of money and kind of almost buy our way to some success, hopefully, but only because the hard work's been put in, the shrewd business has been done to be able to put ourselves into a position where we can get investment, like the potential naming rights and things along the lines of that. Yeah, I mean, it's in something I heard was that instead of a company in like trying to buy shares in Spurs, what they actually have done is they've bought shares in ENIC, so that then the money can be put into the club to kind of get around the issues that the Saudis are having with Newcastle. So, and things along the lines. I'm not a business person. I don't know 100% how it works. But instead of investing in Tottenham, they've invested into ENIC as the company, and then obviously ENIC being Tottenham, they can pump the money in without any real issues because of the hard work that's been done. But I think we'll find out by the end of the transfer window what the actual lay of the land is with the ownership and everything that's seemingly going on. But I mean, it is typical Spurs that we get all of this money and we finally start spending it, and we're like, here's a player. Oh wait, you can't have that player because of there's been a breach of the contract and stuff like that. So it's like classic Spurs, isn't it? Finally start spending the money and yet still can't spend the money. So
the Spursy of contracts. Adrian, what's your thoughts?
I think there's two lots of money coming in, and I base my reason on the fact that if we get a naming rights deal and it's 25-30 million a year, that just only pays the interest on the debt. You're not going to get all the money up front that you can go and buy players. It's not happening. So I'm going with Tom here on the ENIC investment, because they've made so much money out of their equity in the club. that they should put some money back, as far as I'm concerned. So if it is 120 or 150 million, it could get us another couple in. But if it's the rumoured Saudi, we can start thinking, we'll get Antonio Robinson in as well as the DM and a striker as well, and get real greedy. But at the moment, I think it's 2 deals, and I don't think Levy is going to play his hand, or even Vinay Venkatesham's going to play his hand at all on this, because you don't want to announce you've got loads of money in a transfer window. I think these announcements will be made once the window's closed, I think, and so I'm not expecting anything, unless unless there's a rumored big investment in the club, because there's going to be a phased buyout by Saudis, Americans, or whatever. But if we're spending this sort of money, this is very unlike Enoch, right, and Levy. So. But we've had changes on the board with Charrington coming in, and we know that
you've absolutely nailed it for me. Is Peter Charrington the most important person at Tottenham Hotspur now, not Daniel Levy? Callum, let's start with you.
I would say he's got a lot of influence over it, but I was handed some information earlier where Peter Carrington is actually a Levy and Enoch appointed director. He is not separate from Levy or Enoch.
No,
he is appointed by both of them to manage day-to-day running operations alongside Vinay in behalf of Enoch Group, which is the Enoch Trust, the Lewis Trust, all of that stuff. He does have a role to play, and Levy is stepping back a little bit, but he's doing it in the right way. He's getting people who know how to do it and how Enoch want to run the business. They've gotten rid of a lot of people this summer, and I know we'll cover that in a bit, sort of thing, but Peter Carrington is a very important person playing a very important role this summer.
I mean, I was debating with one particular Levy hater on one of our WhatsApp chat groups yesterday. I won't name any names, but he seemed to be suggesting that Levy had been reduced to the level of office boy and was being told what to do by Charrington and by it's complete rubbish, isn't it?
So that's completely full of bollocks. Levy is still a chairman of the club. Levy owns 30% of Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah.
He cannot be reduced to a paper pushing administrator who's just going to move paper here, paper there. I'll make you tea, Peter. There you go. No, Levy owns 30%. Enoch and other shareholders own 70%. He is still the main chairman of the club, and yes, they come to decisions as a board, but he can sometimes have a deciding vote if the board cannot agree unanimously or by majority.
Okay, let me pick up. I'm going to bring the others in, but I need to catch up on the chat because there is so much going on here. Unfortunately, there's so much good chat as well. There's actually so much. There's quite a lot of stuff here. Other stuff that I've just dissed. Yeah, okay. Look, there's a lot of stuff here. Yeah, Kate, hi. Welcome again, Kate. I think, with everything that's being done, Adrian's gone. Tom, I don't know if you've got any take on this. They're trying to build hotels. There was those, 4 great buildings behind the North Stand. There's the training development and the women's complex, I think, at Whitewebs. There's more than enough for Daniel Levy to be doing in his specialist area, which is property. I mean, he's a land economist. That's what he does. And particularly Vinay Venkateshan and Paratici and what have you are there doing the football.
Yeah.
Everyone's a winner.
Yeah, I think for a long time, Spurs fans have just wanted him to take a bit of a step away from the full team, and seemingly the only way that was ever going to happen was if he left the club completely. But by some sort of miracle, I've always been kind of on board with keeping Levy around, but just don't let him have the final say over every single transfer, and getting his nose like stuck in with what players we should be signing and things like that. And that's the impression that we get as fans of what has been going on for the last few years. It might not be necessarily the case, but that is the impression that we've been getting, that he's just been sticking his oar in a bit too much with things that he's not qualified to do. But there is stuff that he's qualified to do, and the stuff that he's qualified to do, he's very, very good at, and he's definitely someone that you would want to keep around to be able to do that. If it's going to be making money for the club to be able to then invest into the football side, it's just we haven't necessarily seen that invested into the football side in the best ways. Clearly, we've been spending more money since moving into the stadium on transfers, but I wouldn't say we've necessarily been spending it wisely. So putting in the people in place to be able to spend that money more wisely, especially if there's now more money coming in, then that's definitely worthwhile for the team moving forward. And then if you're going to keep him on side to be able to do his hotels and do these other bits and pieces that are going to make Spurs more money, then fine.
Yeah. I'm going to move on to the team, Adrian, because we could talk about Levy and Enoch and what have you. I think this is going to be another show when the actual news breaks of who's put what money in where for what. But there's lots of rumours, Adrian, that Romero stays. Will you be happy if Romero stays, or
Definitely,
is he
I
one
really
of those
like
that plays 20 games a year? It's not enough.
If why are we getting Gibbs White? Why are we getting Kudos? Right? It's because we want to take the next step up, and we've been a long time waiting to make this step, haven't we? So if you want to challenge, you keep your best players. And Romero's quality. I know Romero. We can pick any Spurs player, and the fan base will be half and half on all of them, basically. Unless they really like someone. They might be 80% for getting someone like Eze in, right? I understand that when you get exceptional players. But no, Romero's not going anywhere. I mean, Atletico Madrid haven't got the money. And now you're getting, because they haven't, you're getting the low-tier media speculating that Real Madrid might want him, right? But then again, like, they would still have to produce the money as well. So, and if he's such mates with Diego Simeone, as we're led to believe, and he went to Real Madrid, I think that would end that friendship quite quickly. So we keep him for a year. I mean, because that could be a winning season again. We could pick up silverware. And then, but obviously we've got to try and make him sign a contract. And when any player gets down to 2 years in his contract, I mean, like, you should make sure, say to them, look, you're signing or what? Or we'll tell you now, rather than losing you you'd still get 40 million for Romero next season, easy. Now, where are you going to get a centre back for that price that's his class, right? So I believe he's staying. So any rumours about us linked with Esteve at Burnley and other centre backs, Guay and all that, no, because we've still got to fix the DM position, right? So, and it looks like that is going to go ahead as well, because that's
my next topic.
Right,
so
right. Yeah. So I don't know what the other guys think
Sunday.
about Romero. Tom, what do you think about the Romero situation?
I've been the same. If he wants to sign a new contract, then we'll keep him. If he doesn't want to sign a new contract, sell him. That's as far as it goes to me. I think you're never going to be able to replace Romero, but what you can do is you can get other players in with the money you get from him to kind of help fill that gap. That doesn't mean what I mean by that is you're not going to find another centre back that can do what Romero does. Or you might be able to find a very, very good defensive centre back and a very good defensive midfielder that can then do what Romero kind of did in terms of his ball progressing, winning the ball back, being aggressive and things like that as well. My thing with it is that, he to us, he has a value, and that value is roughly around 70 million. But people laughing at that, we bought him for, I think it was 52 million euros. So 45 million pounds we bought him for. So of course we're gonna, since we bought him, he's become a World Cup winner. He's won the Copa America. He's won the Europa League. He's won 3 or 4 trophies since we've got him, and he's become a world-class defender. So he's improved exponentially since he's been with us. Of course, we're going to want more than what we paid for him to come in when he was a relative unknown. So absolutely, we should be wanting the amount of money we want. But at the same time, if he ain't going to sign a contract, I do not want to be in a situation where we've got players running their contracts down and holding us up the barrel in terms of are they going to leave on a free. So I think, he either needs to sign a contract this summer or we need to look at moving him on.
On that, Callum, go on. I was just going to ask.
Rumours I'm hearing, Callum, is we've offered him £200,000 a week and the captaincy. Is that wide of the mark or?
Wide of the mark at the moment. There is talk scheduled with him and his agent in the coming weeks, but at the moment there's no new contract offer on the table. It's the reasoning behind all the stuff going quiet is because Atletico have no intention to buy him for that value. They value him at 50 million euros, simple as that. They want to pay us the fee that we paid to Atalanta and Juventus. Real Madrid and Barcelona are interested. They can't afford him, nowhere near it. Barcelona can't even register him. Saudi have looked at him, but he's not interested in Saudi. Like many players really aren't anymore. So it's a non-starter at the moment. PSG aren't interested anymore because he was only looked at by Pochettino when he was there. And other Premier League clubs, they're not really crying out for centre-backs at the moment at that higher level. So I think the chance is that he will stay, but it's one that talks will be opened in coming weeks, not at this present time. And the captaincy isn't there to be offered at the moment because Son's still our captain. Nothing's changed. So whoever's reporting that needs to probably check their facts a little bit, to be honest, before they actually post that out in the wider world.
Do you have a view that whether he'll stay or go?
Based on my gut feeling and the information that I'm getting, it's 90% in favour of staying at the moment, unless someone coughs up 70 to 80 million.
I have an issue with these down to 2 years, not because it doesn't make commercial sense, because what Tom said's right, but it's just the attitude of a club, whether you're a big club or a bit small-minded, that you buy a player, you put him on 5 years, and because you think he'll have a sell-on value when he's done 3 years of his contract. I mean, if you buy a player to me and you believe in that player, surely all that's factored in, the money's factored in that he sees out the 5 years of his contract, if not gets an improved one. I don't like this buy to sell on attitude. I don't like it. I don't think it's progressive, so it's just my attitude on that. But it makes sense to offer a player a contract or sell him if he doesn't. But, don't buy him with that attitude,
Guys, we have 205 watching. We've been steadily like a cricketer, going through the 180s, going through the 190s. We're now at 206. Whatever forum you're watching on, please like the channel. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us enormously. If you're watching on X, and I know we have a fair number watching on X, I'm not watching on any forum, so I don't know where the exact breakdown of the numbers are. But if you go on to if you're on X, Adrian, just want to know how do people watch it on X? That people coming and going. How do they get into the channel to like and subscribe?
When you go into the, just type Spurs Diehards in, and we'll come up, and then below the main channel, you'll find Spurs Communities, which I just started the other day, which has got 14 people joined out the 3,200 there that have followed us this year, like this first year. So if you go, the difference is on the ordinary XCOM channels, your posts get lost among everybody else's, but in the community, my channels build up a lot, and I can annoy the hell out of you all the stuff I post, right? So and people know I do bombard people with facts and figures because I'm a fact-based person. So so XCOM, if you use it, again, we have got a Facebook group of 49,000, but it seems that people out there, they'll use different forms of media and won't go near other forms of media, and I understand that. So anyway, but thanks to you all in the chat, your loyal regulars in the chat. A big up to everyone that watches us on playback, especially you guys. You are special, as Mars and
Absolutely.
like Ian said, please, you can subscribe to the channel on the bottom right-hand corner, and we do memberships as well if you're interested, if you like us. So back to you, Ian.
Callum.
Yes, mate.
The names banded about for midfield. You have some information. I know I'm taking some stick rightly when I said I think I had some exclusive news tonight. It's not really exclusive because the name's been made or been heard of, but you have some knowledge of our number one midfield, number 6 target.
Yeah, so our number one centre defensive mid target is Walton. It's Adam Walton from Crystal Palace, and it seemed that the media finally got hold of this from GB News reporting it, which is the most random source ever to report any football news in my mind, to be honest. But they got hold of it Thursday, and a lot of it's been banded around the last couple of weeks based on the information that I spoke to from someone in the club. We've been speaking to Palace actively for about 3 weeks now for Walton. There is a growing consensus that we are looking to agree a deal, and that deal has been reported to be 180, 90 million. Based on the information I've heard, Palace are willing to agree on a fee of around £75 million for Adam Walton. But it's based on the structure of payment, which is dictating how this is. They want the majority up front. They want about 50 or 60 up front at the moment. Spurs are trying to negotiate it to about 40 to 45 up front with achievable add-ons. And they feel they could probably get a deal done at around £70 million mark.
70 million, of course, would break our club record.
A lot of the talk around all these players, Kudus, Gibbs-White, Walton, are all looking to be marquee club record signings based on value or overall transfer fees at some point or other.
So how far do you think the clubs are apart at the moment in terms of, I mean, everybody has aspirations and then there's reality in the negotiation. So we've been talking for 3 weeks. It sounds like we're still a fair way apart, but you tend to find things get closer. If parties agree that the deal's going to get done, it's in everybody's interest to get it done and move on. They can buy replacements and we can bed him in.
No, exactly. I mean, the intention and the sort of information is that Spurs have an offer of about 65 million on the table, but the sticking factor is the payment terms, because obviously we know that Spurs like to do these special types of deals where they pay a fee, like what we're doing with the Kudus deal, 55 million over 3 years. Palace want most of it up front, and that's what Spurs are trying to negotiate on. So Palace are happy with the offer in terms of the value. They're not happy in the time frame that they're getting it in, but there's a gut feeling within Spurs and Palace that within the next 2 weeks there could be a consolidation where they have the package secured for it, or if not, Spurs will just walk away. They're not afraid to say that they're going to just stick to Walton and drag it out till the last day of the window. They will make sure that the deal works for Palace, but Spurs have to benefit as well out of it. If not, they will walk away. That's their intention at the moment.
Tom, your thoughts on getting Adam Walton in the club? I think you're a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually said earlier, before the transfer window opened, that I'd rather us spend 68 million on Adam Walton than 68 million on Eze. So he is a player that plays in a position and has a skill set which we need. you take your numbers, your number 6, your defensive midfielder, whatever it is you want to be. He is a player who has a skill set as a midfielder that we need. He's good at winning the ball back, and not only is he good at winning the ball back, he's also good at progressing it forward quickly as well. It's not just a case of he's got a good eye for a pass, but he will look to spring an attack as fast as he possibly can without wasting the ball. He is only young, so although it would be a massive statement of intent, he's still only a young player. So it's a lot of money for a player who is maybe not. He's definitely oven ready, but he's not exactly like. I hate to use this. It's not like Arsenal signing Declan Rice. It's very different kind of signing. Declan Rice was obviously a complete, elite player when Arsenal went and dumped 105 million or whatever it was on him. It's not quite to the same level, but it is a player who will probably be better than Declan Rice in the future, and that's maybe me being a bit over the top. But he has that potential to be one of England's mainstays in midfield. Obviously, stay injury free. So yeah, I think it's definitely a player that we should be going for. But I think if that's right, that Spurs have been speaking for 3 weeks and happy with the value. It's just the payment structure. But if that can't be worked out, then yeah, definitely I don't think it's one that you want to be dragging on for the end of summer. You have more power in a negotiation if you say, okay, then we'll go find someone else rather than going, oh please let us have him for this, and then Crystal Palace then have the power. So yeah, it's good that we're talking about him. He's definitely a player I'd love us to get.
Adrian King Hoddle, I can't put this better myself. What would be a statement?
I have no reason to doubt Callum, right?
In terms of intent, in my view.
Yeah. If we're talking 65 and 10 million add-ons, then we really must have a big investment coming at this club. And the reason I say that, because otherwise you use your budget to fill the gaps you need. And for 75 million, we could, in theory, go and get Anthony Robinson from Fulham to fix the left-back issue and get a DM in. It could be Polina. It could be Douglas Luiz who wants to come. It could be Rios, the Colombian who's played for Palmares. It could be Frendrup. It could be Hoymond. We could get 2 of those players for the money. If we're willing to pay it for Walton, I think we've got a massive investment coming in this club because we've still got other gaps to fill. Yeah. So that tells me we got a massive investment. So if we're in for Walton, I to be honest, although I watch hundreds of videos, right? When they gain gravitas, I tend to go and look and post them around to you guys. But I've looked at him in the past. I've forgotten everything about him, right? So
yeah, Nita, I don't think the bank manager's got anything to do with this. I don't think.
Well, Levy's bank manager had a heart attack.
I think the money's coming from that fairy godmother. Callum, if we're not doing, we can't get this deal over the line, and I have to tell you everything. I mean, Steve Parish and Daniel Levy are hard negotiators, but they're realists as well. I mean, I'm going 80% we'll get that deal over the line. But if we can't, the backup options, I think, are these right, or can you add or subtract from these?
So Hayden Hackney is definitely viewed as someone over the last 3 years who's had a good progression at Middlesbrough. They view him as most likely the English backup for the club, so if they can do, they will go for him, but there are other clubs looking. I know Everton have held active discussions this week with his camp and with Middlesbrough to see about the conditions of the deal. Douglas Luiz, obviously one of the most touted around names in Europe. This one is a non-starter at the moment. This is an agent offering out players. This has the smell of the Morgan Gibbs White deal to it, to be honest. He's been offered around. Paratici has obviously contacts in Italy, so this is one that's come through his way. So I wouldn't think too much on Douglas Luiz at the moment. It's the same with Paulinho as well. I can't see that one happening. He's still valued at Bayern. And based on the fee that they're going to want for him, I think he's 29 now, isn't he? Something like that. he doesn't fit the profile of what's the Spurs' profile are 23 to 27 on first team proven and 18 to 21 on the talent progression side as well. Anything over that is a non-starter. So I think João Paulinho is a dead one. Hoyle, you said, was it
Hoyman and Morton Frendrup, and forget Hoyman's name, but he's the one with the Arsenal tattoo, isn't he?
Yeah, so he is an option from Sporting. They have looked at him, but he's going to dictate a fee of about 60 to 70 million. So they think that's quite overpriced for him. Frendrup is a non-starter. That was January. Spurs also looked at Hugo Larsson as well in January from Frankfurt, I believe it is. And they wanted to do a deal at about 45 million. Frankfurt told them 85 to 90. So literally it didn't work. Fucking hell.
That's my grandson who's
Give it to him, Louis. Give it to him, Louis.
We're all on holiday together, and listen, I was slightly red, but I think I've gone beetroot red now. Hi, Louis. Hey, you can. Hey, my door's shut. I think I say come up and you can come on. He's probably in his gym jams anyway. I could put him on the. I could put him on the stage. And I'll be back. He'll be here next Sunday, but I'm watching you live with Ava. He says,
So, Callum, who are there any hot tips on a DM?
It is Walton, Hackney are the two main targets. There was talk of Rios being in there. The problem is Rios is more favoured to go to Italy, to be honest. So I would say them two are the main targets at the moment. If not, Spurs will seek to get someone more in the mould of Bergvall, Sarr, someone who could sort of be moulded over time for it. And there's been rumours of Nico Paz from Spain. I think he's at Como at the moment. There's I think it's Pellegrini or someone like that from Roma as well, who's been looked at. One that they do like is Warren Emre from PSG, but he is mega money. I mean, PSG want probably 100+ million for him.
Does Frank actually want? I mean, when I've watched some videos of him, I mean, obviously we'll get to know his style of play, but it's mainly 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, and he tends to play with a narrow pivot. So I don't see us bringing a deep line defensive midfielder at all. So I'm wondering if he might go for another Morgan Gibbs White energetic type, like a Patesi, or what's happening with Edison? Edison, he hasn't moved on, has he?
The guy from Atalanta. That was a Paratici favourite. That was a last summer sort of option that was offered to us. He's probably a non-starter, to be honest. There have been talks with Atalanta over another player, and I'll save that for if we do cover any centre-backs later on for that one. But I think that Edison's probably a non-starter. I believe that Adam Walton, they view, could play as a deep-line playmaker as well. Someone who could play sort of in that deeper role, but sort of ping a long ball over the top as well. So because they feel that Vicario just doesn't do that at the moment compared to what Flecken could do last year for Brentford. So I would say that there's something in the Walton deal, and I believe he can be more well-rounded towards a Rice mould than just stuck in a Rodri, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Jimbo, you can absolutely ask, but there's no way in the world that I'm asking for him for his source, or he'll never come back again. Just all I know, there's a couple of the people that I know, and Johnny Hamme is actually very good. A lot of stuff he says comes to fruition. So I don't know if you've got the same.
And John Cheeseroom, ex Cheeseroom, would be okay, because his mate from Brentford He's now the physio at Spurs.
There are people that have got good inside knowledge, and I've said I did say, Callum, if you came on and you were good with all this stuff, that you would have I would tie you up in NDAs, non-compete clauses, exclusivity deals as well.
I don't think that'll go down with Harry very well, mate. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, no, okay.
Harry who? Harry who?
Oh, that one I know you're going to ask me on, aren't you?
No,
as well,
no,
later
Harry.
on.
I need to ask Harry on this show as well. But well, let's talk about other positions. I actually wasn't going to deal with centre half, but in terms of centre half, I haven't got a banner on centre half. Excuse me, on centre half. So let's discuss that now.
So
if Romero is staying, do we need another central defender?
If Romero stays, then no. But there's two very encouraging ones that have been looked at, and they are very much in the mould of the younger centre-backs, but they are proven centre-backs. They are top quality performers who have been looked at by Lange and Paratici over the last 12 months or so. It's not Estevez. It's not someone in the Premier League, anything like that. It's Giorgio Scalvini from Atalanta.
Okay.
And also Antonio Silva from Benfica as well. They are both lefts. They can play left side and right hand side. And I can see Tom's doing the money aspect. The great thing is that if we sold Romero for 70, we could get them in that money as well. They're not sort of big fees of 90 to 100. These are 40, 50, 60 million centre-backs that we'd be looking at.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why I'm doing that is you said Benfica, and as soon as you say Benfica, it's always going to be ridiculous money. I've watched that Silva, and he is very, very good.
Sorry, let me just stop. Louis, can you stop doing that, please? Enough. I'll have to take you off. You need to stop that. It's my grandson, Nita. But I need to stop you because otherwise I'm not going to get the comments. I think you're very good, but you're 11, and we're talking about players that can play for Spurs this season. So, okay, enough. Otherwise, I've got mum to take you to bed. Right. Okay. Tom, you're a big fan of Scalvini, aren't you?
Scalvini, I think he's a very, very. There's been a lot of talk from certain people on the YouTube scene about getting him in because he can play defensive midfield. Absolutely not. He's not a defensive midfielder. He is a centre back, out and out centre back. He might have stepped into defensive midfield at a needs must situation, but as a centre back, he's very good. He's a big guy, big lump, but he's composed on the ball, good with his feet. He's young, and he is spoken about. He's been spoken about. I first heard of him about 2-3 years ago when I think we were linked with him, and that was obviously when Paratici was obviously our director of football and stuff. And so he's still quite young. I think he's only 21-ish. So young guy, but big and strong and good with his feet. So he'd be good. It's just you just never know how Italians get on in the Premier League. To be honest with you, they've always seemed to be the one nation that seemed to struggle a little bit with the Premier League. So there's always that risk there. But again, it's these are exciting players to be speaking of, but they're not going to happen unless Romero is sold and stuff like that. So. Personally, if you're asking me, would I rather Scalvini or Romero? I'd rather Romero. Would I rather Silva or Romero? I'd rather Romero. But I would also rather Romero signs a new contract rather than holding us over potentially losing him for a free at some point. So, but if no one's going to stump up the money we want, then you're kind of that weird cycle, aren't you? So,
Adrian, it does sound like from what Callum's saying, what Tom's saying, we really are punching our weight for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, we've come out of a coma. I mean, like the catatonic state we're in before. I mean, it's not, as Tom alluded to earlier, that we haven't spent the money. We spent about 1.4 billion on players. That's not the net spend. It's sort of average of 120 million a year or more since the stadium opened. And like we bought Davison Sanchez, we bought Celso, we bought Richarlison, we bought Ndombele, and none of them have worked. All right, we've sold a few players. Now we've actually got players we might get a few quid for because Gill's gone, Hoiberg's gone, 70 more Gill will be going, sorry. And with a bit of luck, Suma and Richard will be going. And Bentancur may be going if you don't want to sign a contract. Maybe he'll be going as well. I like Bentancur out of that lot, though, funny enough, but the others I wouldn't miss, right? I wouldn't miss them. So outgoings will be interesting. And on the
let's discuss outgoings. I want to come on before we finish to fullbacks and potential forwards. But the latest rumor I heard today was that Spurs are looking to offload Bentancur, which surprises me. But we've got Bissouma, Son, Kulusevski, Richarlison. I'm leaving Gill out of that and what have you. Players have obviously got no future. I mean, I really want to discuss the players that are part of the first team set up now. Callum, can you give us any insight into that?
Bentancur is not on the list.
Good.
Frank fancies him. He thinks he could be a potential captain at some point or part of the leadership group. There is active talks with him to extend his contract, as reported by many journalists and reputable ones at that. Ali Gold, different people like that have all said that he is on set to sign a new contract or is at least in open talks. Bentancur's a non-starter. Suma, they are actively looking to remove him from the club, and this people have touted around fees of 30 to 35 million. The fee is actually 15 to 20.
Really?
15 to 20 million Levy is looking for Bissouma to leave.
He's in his last year. You're not going to get big money for him.
Yeah, so 15
Callum,
to 20 I think is quite fair.
With when we're taking good players off of clubs like Forest, maybe Palace, is there any mileage here in a player plus cash deal?
I've heard some minor information that Forest potentially could look at Bissouma, but as a separate deal, not involved in the Gibbs White one. It would be a separate entity altogether, so it would have no impact whatsoever on transfer budgets or this deal imminently. And that was before this stuff with the NDA stuff came out. So I wonder whether any chance of that has probably been soured, if not shot down like a lead balloon at the moment. That's gone down quicker than a Zeppelin. Let's put it that way, mate.
Can I just bring a banner up here? Because just to inform people that this is the homegrown situation, right? Now, I've included Morgan Gibbs White in this banner. Now, for those out there that would like to see Davies go, would like to see Maddison go, or like to see Brennan Johnson go, this is a rude awakening. We've only got 8 homegrown players. That's with if we get Gibbs White in. Right, 8. Everyone, we've had a big clear out. I mean, Lang, who's took a load of stick off of people, but he's getting Gibbs White, he's getting Kudus in, he got Bergvall in, he shipped out loads of players. So I think when there was the scattergun approach last year from the fan base attacking Spurs at every level, which I wasn't against, right? I think Lang took some unfair criticism because there's been such a big pull at the club that if he wasn't doing his job, he would have been gone as well. And yet he seems to have survived the cold. So that tells you he's been doing his job behind the scenes. To me, it does anyway, whether you like him or not, right? Yeah. So I don't know if Callum, you got anything on this? I mean, I know we could recruit from the under-21s, but then I don't think they can go back down again once they're on the homegrown list. So it's just some information for you guys that don't know. I mean, we can't just get rid of players that you think,
I think that, I was going to say, I think that lends itself into the fact of, we're looking at Adam Wharton, and if not Adam Wharton, we're looking at Hayden Hackney, two English players that would go onto that list and stuff as well. Well, I think the problem is that for the next season, maybe the season after, we are going to struggle with this homegrown and club trained. But once we get past that, we will be fine because your Bergvalls, your Greys, your players along the lines of that are all going to add into being on those lists and stuff. So we've done a lot.
Go on the under-21 list, yeah, they will. They will be able to go. They'll be on the 21 list.
that's what I mean. So they'll start counting as players on this homegrown list rather than just an under 21 player.
That's just information because we like to give you facts here at Spurs Diehards, and this is the non-homegrown, which isn't an issue really, because Gill will be going, Keeley's getting a new contract, but he'll go out on loan or what. Solomon will be going. So we have got room for foreign players, which was always a worry, but as we've got less for the Premier League, but for the Champions League, at the moment we can only have 14 because we only have one academy trained player that's been with the club for 3 years, and that's Austin, because we let Whiteman go. So do you just, you just think, oh, we're bringing Walker Peters or Sirkin to do that? I'd rather go without and get Antonio Robinson in myself personally. And if it means we go with 14 foreign players in the Champions League, go with 14, because we can add to the squad from the B list. We can have 20 players in the B list under 21s or whatever it is, as long as they've done the 2 years, right? So I'd rather, he's not long term, is he, Walker Peters? Sirkin's younger, 23 at Sunderland, but it depends whether Frank thinks either of them are wanted. He wants either of them, and I don't just want to go for a player, but that's just my opinion for the sake of it. I'd rather get Anthony Robinson in for 40. And even spending the money, but I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean,
I know Callum doesn't think he's available at that price. Do you?
Not at that price, no. Anthony Robinson, I wouldn't touch with a barge pole, to be honest, and I don't think he will come to Spurs. He will not want to sit second fiddle. So they have looked at him in the past, another Paratici one that they looked at under Conte. I don't think that'll happen. Walker Peters, there's more chance of him going to Turkey at the moment. He's going to go and get his teeth done, so he'll be happy. And Sirkin's a good one. They are interested, and the problem is that Spurs have shot themselves in the foot where they had a £6 million buyback clause, which is now elapsed. So now they have to buy at Sunderland's value, and Sunderland's value is probably at around 12 to 15 million at the moment of what I've heard. So for homegrown quality and homegrown player, I wouldn't say homegrown quality because he's never played in the Premier League, but I think there's a player there, but he's for the long term. And
it's not the biggest hit. It's when you had a £6 million option that you let lapse, and it's now a £35 million purchase. That's bad business. With what's going on, we can live with having to shell out another 6 or 8 million on top of what we might have had to pay.
And that's the problem. So I mean, the only other option is buying a homegrown centre back or a homegrown midfielder, and the 4 options are Carter Vickers, who ain't going to leave Celtic to come and play second fiddle. You've got Tanganga, who has had a brilliant season for Millwall. But probably deserves to play as a centre-back, first-team Premier League now. Harry Winks, who we know polarised our opinion as a fan base, split down the middle, and I don't think anyone could live with that anymore. Or Oliver Skipp, who the poor sod got run ragged by Van Nistelrooy, completely ruined his career in half a season and all that as well at Leicester. So they're the options. And I know that Ian asked me this one earlier, you go for a homegrown up-front man who is a legend of the club, who Ian wanted to come back, and who... I don't know what Ian was smoking on holiday, but I mean, it's like...
Yeah.
And I had a few people ask me this today, which was really interesting. I spoke to a number of people around the club, and the desire is that Kane will return in the future, but not now. He will most likely return at the end of next season or the season after, because he had a 3-year contract with Bayern, and that was signed under Thomas Tuchel. Obviously, Company came in after a year, and Company's model is this young profile of player. Well, Bayern are going towards the PSG model. They want a young German model now, whereas PSG had the young French model. So the idea is that they will bring in Walter either this summer or next summer. Kane's contract will elapse because it's got a 1-year option in it, which they're not likely to increase his contract because that's what his brother wants. His brother has not a lot of friends in the footballing world, and they would like him to stay, but I don't think he'll get a contract. He's likely to come back to the Premier League maybe for 2 years. But what Spurs are afraid of is that they've got an identity now. They're a team. They're not the Harry Kane team. They are Tottenham Hotspur Football Club team. If Kane comes back, it will be on Spurs' terms, not on Harry Kane's terms, not on Harry Kane's brother's terms. It will come back. He will have to play as the team plays. It will not all be built around him. And that's what their concern is, that they don't know how Kane will respond to that. And that's why they have distanced themselves from putting a massive offer in for Kane this year, because it won't fit in with the wage structure. He won't fit in with the profile of player that club are looking at. And it's a lot of sentimentality in there as well. And a lot of the people that were sentimental about him have left Spurs in the last 2 seasons since he left as well, in these restructures, reshuffles, rebuilds as well.
Callum, question for you. I'm confident Mikey Moore signs his contract in August when he's 18, right? So we'll get a 5-year with a 1-year extension or whatever it is on that.
Yeah.
But now we're bringing in oven-ready players.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that the pathway from the academy up is narrowing. I'm just wondering, I can only think of 2 players that could possibly make it into the squad if they're and they should. That's Vaskovic and Donnelly. And the reason I say Donnelly's got the better chance than Vaskovic is because we know that Madison and Kulusevski are going to miss a large chunk of pre-season because of their injury problems. So if Donnelly can't get in there now, I mean, but we don't know where Kudus is going to play in these pre-season games, whether he plays in the midfield or whether he plays wide right, or is he centre forward, right? So any word on those 3 players? Because I don't think anyone else has got a chance. They're all going to go out on loans. Keeley's going to get a new contract as well.
So Keeley will go out on loan. He'll sign his new contract. The players that I've heard are going to get a chance in pre-season to be reviewed by Frank are Ash Phillips, Vuskovic. There is a chance Casanova gets reviewed, or Kyra Maidson, Donnelly, Devine, Scarlett, Lancashire, and there's an Abbott maybe, but they're looking more actively to get him on loan to the Championship. They think he had a very good loan in League Two. Yeah, so their thoughts is another season on loan could be the making of him to sort of bulk him up. They've got a development plan in place for him. Tyrese Hall, there was talk in January of him potentially being the up and coming. He had an argument with Postecoglou, ruffled a lot of feathers last year, so there's a good chance he's going to go out on loan to probably League One for the making of him. Olasesi as well. They are looking to loan a lot of youngsters out this summer.
Well, Jay has gone out to Doncaster. What's happening with Dorrington?
Dorrington, there's a chance he could be sold.
Yeah, I wondered that.
From what I've heard, him and Devine are the most likely that could be sold. Him and Devine at the moment.
What, in Lancashire?
Good chance he remains. Either him or Scarlett are going to remain as backup strikers. They want to have, if they're going to buy, they want to have 3 strikers this year, or a main striker, a backup, and a versatile forward who can play that role. So whether that be Kudus, whether that be Johnson or Kulu, they'd like to have a youth player in there as well. The feeling is that it's going to be probably Lancashire or Scarlett who holds that role.
Are we looking to Callum? Are we looking to buy a striker?
No. Based on my information, it's going to be more towards a versatile forward. So Vissa, no. I have heard talk. There is interest there, but more from Frank's side. Dusan Vlahovic, 300 grand a week on wages, non-starter. Gusand, he was picked up on a scouting mission. Not one that's for now, maybe in 6 to 18 months.
Who plays then if Solanke gets injured? Centre forward.
they're still thinking Kudus, Johnson. We've still got Richarlison in there as well. If another versatile forward is to come in after Kudus or Gibbs White, depending on what position he plays, it will depend on getting rid of Richarlison, Solomon, and Hill. They are stuck with them three players, and it's not about the money; it's about the squad numbers.
Yeah,
Money's not the issue; it's the amount of people we've got in the squad, and the same with Son as well. Going, I mean, the player that Spurs want to replace them would be Xavi Simons. After Eze was written off as a target very early on, Semenyo signed his new deal, and then Burmo is only one in United. Xavi Simons is the desired option to come in there to be the left wing target if he does go.
is that a possibility?
Bayern probably.
The possibility is there. It's just about figures, and it's about people moving out as well. Spurs would actively have to move out Richarlison and Son to probably make that happen.
Are they interested in? I know Son commercially is very valuable. I think most of us would think there has at least been maybe a 10% drop off in his performance. Partly, obviously, he doesn't have Harry Kane and that telepathic understanding, but at 32, he's not going to get any quicker, etc. Is the view if Son was to accept an offer, the club would not want to be seen to stand in his way?
The feeling is that there's a lot of sentimental value towards Son and Davis, and if acceptable offers came in, they would at least let the players decide whether they wanted to remain or go. And it turns out the commercial revenue from Son isn't as high as everyone thought it was, because a lot of the stuff out in Asia is monetized and sponsored towards him directly, not Tottenham Hotspur. It's about him as a person. The idea is Asia's best player. It's Asia's best player, not Asia's best player plays for Spurs. It's Son is the best player. So
And
it's a lot
Davis is one of the 7 homegrown until we get Morgan Gibbs White in. We would be 8 or Walton or Hackney or whatever. You know, or bring back
that's the thing, because obviously Davis only applies to Premier League, though. In Champions League, he does have no impact on the 8 homegrown players we have in there because of being trained out of Swansea's youth academy as well. So yeah, it's interesting to say the least. But no, Son and Davis can go if acceptable offers come in. Richarlison, they will look to probably sell for about 30 to 40. Biss, 14 to 20 million. Solomon, probably 20. Hill, they'd take 10. They tried to get rid of Elise, but no one would take him, so that's why he went to Rosario as well. There are other players, though, that there will be looked at. Dragusin could go if an acceptable offer comes in, but there's reservations over his sort of injury record as well at present.
Yeah, he'd go in January if that was the case. He'd have to prove his fitness before he went, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So,
It is. I mean, Adrian is a massive fan of Vuskovic and thinks Vuskovic could be first team ready very quickly, based on the fact he's already a full Croatian international. My gut is that the Premier League will be much tougher baptism week in, week out for him than even playing the a few minutes for Croatia. What's the feeling around the club?
So the feeling is that him and Kota Takaya will probably remain with the club for at least 6 months, and then they will assess it coming up to January to see where they sit. So most likely there has been interest from Holland and Germany for Vuskovic. From Kota, there's been interest in Holland and France as well. But the feeling is that they'll remain around it because Frank, obviously we know, likes to employ different systems. So if they are to do it, then we're probably going to be looking at having 6 centre-backs on there with maybe a 7th in Phillips or Dorrington being about. But the hope is that both of them can be loaned out to start with. and it may be that they do 1 year in the Championship and then get sold next summer. But Vuskovic, the feeling is he will be around at least 6 months, and they want to get him to the stage where he can be club homegrown as well, nation-wise and club-wise as well, before the age of 21. Because remember, he's 18 now, so he has to remain around the club for 18 months to 24 months out of them 36 to make it happen that he stays on that register. Takai is outside of that now, so Vuskovic has to. The same with Bergvall and Gray.
I'm pleased the club have actually done something which everyone's been shouting for ages, and that is with these loans now having a recall back in January. So that will stop them parking players on the bench and not playing them. We bring them back. And also, I don't think we're ever going to go for an injury crisis like we did last year. I mean, like, you know, unless there's the Spurs ground be built on a, you know, Druid's burial ground or something. You know what I mean? So, but I think, and there should be some incentive scheme, like, you know, you give a player 90 minutes, we'll pay his wages that week or something like that. You know, I'm sure people can have better ideas than me, you know.
Spurs do. Spurs actually, a lot of the loans in the country, well, in this country at least, not abroad, because they know how difficult abroad loans are, but in this country, a lot of the time when they loan to League One and League Two, they say that we will pay their wages if they guarantee them game time. And that's what happened with, I believe, Donnelly and Keeley last year. And what they also do is they have it where if they are local, they have the players come back to Hotspur Way 1 to 2 days a week as well to train around it. They did it with Jan Min Hook last year at QPR as well, where he was able to come back to the club, acclimatise, make sure he's still working with the Spurs medical team, the Spurs analyst teams as well, to make sure they're working on their development plans as well.
Yeah, because Scarlett sat on the bench at Ipswich all that time. When he went to Oxford, he got 4 in 20 games or something. And then Phillips and Devine were doing well at Portsmouth or Plymouth, was it? Then they changed their manager. Yeah. Devine was out of flavour. So, and I like Devine. I like the look of him. I don't know if he's ever going to make it, but I like the look of him. And he's now lost half a season of his development before he went out with Vuskovic to Westerlo in Belgium. And that, I'd be infuriated. I mean, who's responsible for these deals at the club, you know? And like the players, they must be gutted, you know, as well. You know, gone out somewhere and sitting on a bench.
Spurs feel this is probably the best time that this season has been in terms of loans. And Abbott, Keeley, Donnelly, Scarlett a little bit, but not so much. Obviously, Vuskovic, Devine being the best example, saying that this season has really developed them well. And that's why a lot of these players, they want to get into the Championship or to League One as much as they can. And what Spurs are trying to do is build up a feeder network like we used to have in the old days, where we used to put a load of players at Yeovil Town under Tim Sherwood. We had Sean Harrison, Andros Townsend, Colker, people like that all down there. They're trying to do that with different clubs, and they know that they're not going to do it with Charlton. Charlton are useless. They tried that with Niall John. That ruined him at Spurs. But if they can do it with West Brom because of Ryan Mason, Chris Davis being at Birmingham, they want to do it with Westerlo. They want to do it with the team that Lucas Bergvall came from in Sweden as well, to put a couple over there. They want to have a link with Holland as well. And they also Jen Gardens, they want to do that. And they also want to resurrect the old link with Leyton Orient, because they think that Keeley and Donnelly developed so well down there. That's how they want it to progress.
They'll sell Craig Matthews when he's went out and loaned to Mansfield. I think they'll get 6 figures for him, 100, 200 grand or something, and I think it'll go. Yeah,
Craig kind of reminds me of Harvey White, how it ended up. A good player, but not anywhere near the level that he needs to be, and too far off now.
Okay, I've had Tom standing at deep square leg for the last half hour or so. And the worry is when someone hoiks it out there, the ball comes to him and he can't take the catch. So I better get you on, you know, Tom. There's I can't even say, do you want to comment on this? But I've kept stum because the conversation has just been so interesting and so enlightening on targets and how the clubs run, and Adrian and Callum just battering that back and forth. I said, why intervene? But I'm really encouraged at what I see as an increase in, just Callum and I discussed this earlier, and I'm going to come back to it, but of seemingly real professionalism across the club in the way that they're doing things, and an individual development plan for each player, or a target to leave the club, or at realistic levels of sale, rather than holding out for 30 million for a player you can get 15 for, and he's stuck there like a bad smell in the dressing room till at least the next transfer window.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's kind of mind-boggling to me that we wouldn't have ever have had development plans for these players like in years gone by. So if that was something that wasn't there before, then that's ridiculous, and if it was there before, it clearly wasn't very good, and hopefully we're doing a better job of it now. Like the fact of the matter is that we have an academy. Not every player is going to progress to the first team from that academy. In fact, if you get one from each year group coming into the first team, that's probably actually a very good hit rate.
Good ratio, yeah,
for a top 6, top 4 Premier League team, right? So, the important thing is that you're developing them to the point, and they're going out and they're cutting their teeth in men's football, so that when you do inevitably need to sell them because they're not good enough for us or they're not the right fit for us, that you're going to get a decent value for them. And that's something we've maybe been guilty of in the past, is that we've not been good enough at getting value for the players that we've invested a lot of money in to develop to adult football, right? So, the fact that it does seem like a lot of work is going on to try and make ourselves a better football club, and actually having a bit of a responsibility of not just ourselves, but a responsibility to ensure that those players that we've invested money in actually do go on to have a career in football, rather than players that they get to, like you said with Niall John, and there's millions, not millions, tens and 20s of others that I can think of that came up through our youth system that you just like, I didn't even realise that player was playing anymore, and along the lines of that. So it is good, but it needs to be better. But I think we've done a lot of recruiting of young players to help solve our club trained and homegrown issues, which, like I said a bit earlier, in a year, 2 years time, we're going to see the fruition of. We're not necessarily going to be pulling our hair out going, we've only got one club trained player. In 2 years time, we're going to have 5 or 6 or 7. So that's where that's the advantage. And although people maybe didn't like us spending the amount of money we did on an Archie Gray, knowing that he is probably going to be a player that is going to develop into a regular in our team in the future, we've got him at an age now where he will become a club trained player. Same with Bergwall, same with Vuskovic, players along the lines of that. We kind of messed up with Mate Sarr when we signed him, because we didn't register him in that first year we signed him. He's not counted as homegrown or club trained, because we bought him, but we left him at Metz, didn't we? So yeah, we kind of screwed that one up a little bit.
What's the view on Sarr?
Well, so for me personally, he absolutely stays, and I think he will do really, really well in a double pivot. So he is he's got legs. He's a hard worker. He runs a lot. He's good. He's a good all rounder, is what I put him as. So actually having him in a double pivot and giving him a bit of freedom in that sense to kind of run around, chase the ball, get it back, pass it on, move it forward. The one thing he's not good at is ball retention, short passing, and things like that. He's much better win the ball back, progress it up the field quickly, and things like that. He of all of our midfielders, he probably is one who gives the ball away the most, and not necessarily because he's doing a risky pass in the final third. That was my kind of issue with him. But we've got to remember again, he's 22. Like he's not an old player. He's not going to hit his prime until, like, midfielders usually don't hit their prime until they're mid to late 20s and stuff. So I definitely think he's a player that can develop. And again, if you surround him with better players, then you'll get better performances from him as well. So he for me, he's absolutely going to be staying. I think we'll see him play a lot of football this season under Thomas Frank as well.
Yeah, Adrian, I've got Callum's number. So
Okay, fine. All
you
right.
can get
All
it.
right.
Um,
Yeah, Star. I mean, he does pop up with big goals. He is a big game player. I mean, like in the final, he won the ball a couple of yards inside, went on a blinding run forward. He's got so much energy, isn't he? You know, I say the world's covered with 71% water, and Sar covers the rest. Like, you know what I mean? And then he put the cross in for the debatable Johnson goal, but I'm giving it to him, right? Spurs, right? Yeah, I like the plan. He is an enigma. You know, he is an enigma. We're not quite sure where to play and what to do. You know, but I like it.
I think Eugene's point is right. I've got to be honest. I don't think he's improving. I don't think he's improving enough to warrant a place at the club.
Oh, his technique was all right when he's scoring goals from outside the box against things like that. I don't agree with that, Eugene.
But he's only spent 2 years actually in and around the first team. Like his breakout season for the first team was season 4 last under Ange, and he was a pivotal part in that early 10 game streak that we had and stuff as well. Like I agree. There's, like I said, there's technical things with him that I don't like. I think he is a bit sloppy on the ball at times, things like that. But I think he's much more of an energetic midfielder rather than sort of a finesse midfielder. And the fact of the matter is that when you're building a team nowadays, like it's not about having a first 11. You need to have a first 22, essentially, like that you can rotate and things like that. And actually, he gives you something that you don't get with other midfielders. So having a variety of players there to be able to do different jobs is key. Even if he becomes a bench player and becomes a finisher, as it were, where he comes on for the last 10 minutes and just puts himself about and runs around and chases things down and things like that. Like there is, a place for players with that. I would say actually the one thing that we had with Ange's system is we had too many midfielders that did the exact same thing. Like Bentancur and Basuma are both very, very similar. But I think in the way that Frank plays, and there's multiple ways he plays, but in the way that he plays with a double pivot, I think that's going to hopefully suit Star a lot better. But ultimately, we'll see. I don't think he's a player that you should be rushing out the door. There's definitely other players that we need to be getting rid of. But going back to the players we should be getting rid of, yes, I'd love for us to move Basuma on, move Richarlison on, and everything along the lines of that. But the biggest problem is that there's 3 parties in all transfers, right? And everyone's got to be happy. Okay, we might want him to go, but if no one wants to buy him and the player doesn't want to leave, then you do get a little bit stuck with that. And I hope we learn from our lessons in the past that, settling, although we don't think it's a good value, settling for 10 million for Basuma this year is better than keeping him for another year and losing him on a free. So
yeah, Sarah will be
think
staying, Callum, won't he?
Yeah, Sar's going to stay, and the thing that they're considering and looking at is that obviously Ange's system had the inverted fullbacks, so all of the midfield got constrained. It got too tight, too closed up. That's not what the club want. They want expansive football. They want open spaces, and having 3 midfielders who are very similar, Basuma, Bentancur and Sarr all playing, you then had Porro and Udogie or Spence and Porro or someone like that. You've got 5 players in a freaking line and all that. That line went up, and then that line would then go into a diamond pivot, which just looked like a rough diamond that was confused as hell, with then Van der Ven and Romero sitting at the back. It took any aspect and fun away from it. So yeah, the club viewed Sarr as having a very long future. He's got a contract till 2028, 2029, and there's still comparisons to Yaya Toure, I would say, that I see in Sarr, to be honest. An engine for days.
Much as I made that comment, I do think we haven't seen the best of him. And I mean, I could see him in a midfield, a real box to box, but much more concentrating on getting forward, particularly if he's got somebody like Wharton behind him that will pick up the ball and get it to him. I actually do think he's got a higher ceiling, but I agree with Eugene. I don't think he's improved, but by the coaches that we've got, I think he's got he's still got a big ceiling. Callum, you were asking about the handles, so I thought I'd better put that up. I don't put this up enough. You know me. Tom is at Zookeeper Tom 1. Adrian is now you're just Spurs Diehards. Your Twitter handle.
Yeah, on XCOM we are. It's not my name.
Yeah, Spurs. That's all now. And Callum Stubbs 97.
Well, I mean, the conversations will keep going because apart from the transfer window, we've actually got Reading away on Saturday as well. So, that'll add to our conversations. I mean, that's coming up, isn't it? I mean, I think
you should. Yeah, I mean, you've got. I don't want to because you've got a show on. You're going to do a show on Tuesday.
Yes, I should be doing a show on Tuesday. If Tom's available and co-host with me or whatever, if he is, it doesn't matter.
I'm flying out of here.
Or he can host.
Whatever 6:40, 7:40, whatever. At least I'm up at 5 o'clock on. So that's 4 a.m. your time. So I'm not going to touch that now, Adrian.
That's all.
Callum, you've got to be up early in the morning as well, and Tom, you've got a day off. But it's nearly 1 o'clock here. We actually peaked at 2:50. We've got 2:46 in the chat. I had a message from someone. Callum, I don't know if it's anybody you know. Just let me pull up my messages. Mate or Marte Pershall. Do you know who that is?
Not someone I've come across,
No,
mate, I'm afraid.
Someone who's friendly with friends. I looked at friend requests I get, and you get all kinds of weird and wonderful ones on Facebook. But this is someone who's with Daigle and with Harry. And he sent me a message just to say, if he's still on, can't believe I've only just stumbled across your pod. You're absolutely loving it. Clap, 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 clap. And that just absolutely makes it worthwhile.
Yeah.
It just absolutely makes it worthwhile. Those of you who are still there, if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel.
I mean, we do class ourselves as a discerning, mature and sensible Spurs group. Some people might differ with that, of course, but I mean, we are. I mean, we like to bring you fact-based content, and we like to beat content. We'll speculate as well, but we like to, give you the facts of what's going on as well, if as far as we can find them, that is. But with people and Callum on, that helps us a lot as well.
Yeah. So, Callum, your first time on this show, unless you refuse, it won't be your last. You made an absolute
you won't escape our clutches now, Callum.
Contribution to what's been a really interesting and informative discussion. Zookeeper Tom, as ever, thank you. How's Sophie and Cody?
Yeah, they're fine. Yeah, doing well. You can probably tell from my voice I'm tired. But Sophie's
and I can feel it. And I'm nearly 1 o'clock here. Adrian will talk till breakfast time, but I won't. Always leave something for the next show. I know Callum's got to go to work tomorrow. I haven't, but I've got to get my house cleaned up. Adrian, as ever, thank you very much. Everybody in the chat and the comments, phenomenal tonight. I genuinely think it's been one of our best shows, to be honest. But
if you haven't subscribed to the channel, that little red YouTube icon down the bottom right-hand corner, and we are doing memberships as well if you're interested. And you can find us on Facebook. We've got a Facebook page and 2 XCOM accounts, and we've got the WhatsApp group, which Callum's going to be added to as soon as we're done here. So,
Anyway, Adrian will be back on Tuesday. I assume Drew will be back on Friday, and I would expect to be back on Sunday. And who knows with the speed that things are developing. I'm going to try and do some shorts as well. Maybe even try and do a couple based on 3-minute shorts based on what we've learned tonight. But thanks, Graham. That's really always nice to know that people are enjoying the show. On that note, we will love you and leave you until 10 o'clock it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday, isn't it? We'll say adieu. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Until I die, until I